This is my Goal Zero Torch 500, and in this video we'll be testing for how bright it is, all the different light modes, mobile charging, USB charging, solar charging, lighting distance, waterproofing, and much more. Out of the box, this is what I got: a user guide, a USB-A to USB-C cable, and the Torch 500 itself. At one end of the torch, you will see two power buttons controlling all the light modes. The button to the left is labeled Spot, and the one to the right is labeled Flood. One minor con here is that both these buttons are exactly the same, so you have like a 50-50 chance of pressing the wrong one when turning it on. Now, here's how it works. First, pressing the left spot button once will cycle first to the brightest flashlight mode. Pressing it again will bring you to the medium brightness flashlight mode. Pressing it once more will take you to the dimmest flashlight mode. And pressing it again will turn the flashlight off. The right flood button works the exact same way. First, the brightest lantern mode. Next, the medium brightness lantern. Then the dimmest lantern mode. And then it turns off. You can also turn both the flashlight and the lantern on at the exact same time, and even perfectly adjust everything to your liking. You can cycle through the light modes easily like this. And if any light mode is left on for more than 6 seconds or so, the next press of the button will turn the light off automatically, which is a nice touch. As for runtimes, here are the official specs, ranging from between 3 hours on the brightest modes and 50 hours on the dimmest modes. Now, compared to the official specs, here are my tested results as well. Basically, I found that the brightest spot and flood modes were the most accurate, and the medium modes were also pretty accurate, though you get a little bit more runtime than expected, which is nice. However, when it comes to the low modes, you definitely do not get the 50-hour runtimes. You get a lot less, 28 hours for the spotlight and just under 20 hours for the floodlight. Now, what if you run both the spot and floodlights together? The run times you'll get are 2 hours on high power and 4.5 hours on medium power. The high power mode was very impressive, coming in at 3 hours, even running both at the same time. The medium power was accurate, and the low power mode comes in at about 12 hours and a bit. Basically, when running both modes at the same time, your runtime will drop from anywhere between 20 to 60%. Now, to check how much of a charge you have left, you can use these 4 indicator lights at the top. They stay on for only about 10 seconds after you turn on any of the light modes. Now, how accurate are these lights? Here are my results on a few different tests. Since the lights do not stay on permanently, this test was not easy to carry out, so I take all the readings here as a rough estimate. Now, I found that it goes from a full 4 lights to 3 lights much more quickly than I expected, and by the time you have 2 lights, you still have quite a bit of charge left. The last light actually contains most of the charge when you're using the light, ranging from 40 to a whopping 50%. Occasionally, I would catch the last light blinking sometimes. For my testing, I think that happens when there's only about 5 to 10% of a charge left, which means critically low battery. As for the lumen output for the floodlight, that comes in at 300 lumens on high and 150 lumens on medium. Now to test this, I used a light meter. And based on everything you just saw, here were all my test results. When I aimed a beam of light directly at the meter, I got 5.5 times the amount of lumens on high, 5 times the lumens on medium, and even on the low mode, I got 300 lumens. As for the lumen output of the spotlight, that's about the same, 300 on high, 150 on medium. To test this, I used a very rough bounce test to estimate the number of lumens. Now, here's everything you need to know. For the brightest setting, I used a ceiling bounce test. Got 13 lux as a reading, and this came up to be about 320 lumens, which is quite accurate to the official specs. For the medium and low modes, I used a shorter bounce test, got these readings in lux here, and that came up to almost 100 lumens on medium and 31 lumens on low. Overall, I thought the official specs were pretty accurate, and I got a decent range of brightness settings here. I also wanted to find out if having both the floodlight and spotlight on at the same time would make either of them dimmer, and the short answer is no. You get almost the exact same outputs, even if both are on at the same time. As for the floodlight's shine distance, this distance here is exactly what I measured. I did this using the same lux meter and lumens test and backed away from it until it hit a 0 lumen reading. One thing to take note of here is that the floodlight shines in only like one direction. The other side is just the solar panel, so if you hang this in the middle of your tent, only half of your tent will be lighted up. Now everything you just saw will be summarized into this table here. Feel free to pause the video to check it out. Now, for the spotlight's beam distance, I used the same testing method again with the same lux meter. Now, here are my tested results in table form for all 3 light modes. And now we're going to move on to the different charging functions. This Torch 500 can be charged via USB, it can also be charged via solar, and it even has a charging output for your devices. Let's start with the USB charging. To charge this up, pull off the waterproof flap, and inside, above the indicator lights, you'll find a USB-C input. As for the charge time, based on a 5V 1 ampere output into this Torch 500, that should take about 4 hours for either a USB-A or USB-C output. So I did exactly this. I first used a USB-C to USB-C output, and that gave me 5V and 1 ampere. With this output, my charge time came in at almost exactly 4 hours. Then I used a USB-A to USB-C output, which also came in at 5V and 1 ampere. Of course, that also gave me a charge time of 4 hours, so the specs are pretty accurate. One last thing here, whenever the indicator lights are blinking, this means that it is still charging. It's only fully charged when all 4 lights are solid. The next way you can charge this is via solar energy, and this will take 23 hours in full sun. So I left the torch out in the sun for a whole 12 hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's sunrise and sunset for me, with a decently high UV index in the middle of the day. And here are my results. First, I gave the torch about a quarter of a charge, because if you completely drain the battery, it will not solar charge at all, so please take note of this. After 1 full day of solar charging, I did some testing and found that I ended up with a charge of more than 40%. So the total amount charged was about 15%. If you use the floodlight on low, that'll give you slightly less than 3 hours, and if you use the spotlight on low, that will give you slightly more than 4 hours. For mobile charging, under the indicator lights, you will find a USB-A output. This output has a voltage of 5 volts and a max current of 2.1 amperes. However, this doesn't mean that your device will draw the max current, and here were my test results across 5 different Goal Zero lights. The Torch 500 has double the max current of the rest, but you don't exactly get half the charge time. For me, it was the fastest charging, but it was only about 10% faster than the Lighthouse Core and the Microcharge, and about 20% faster than the Lighthouse 600 and the Mini. Now, here were my exact test results when I did this with my iPhone 12. On my first charge, I started the test at 17%, ended it at 94% for a total charge of 77%, and a total time taken of 1.5 hours. On my second charge, I started at 12%, ended it at 68%, total charge is 56%, and the total time taken is also 1.5 hours. When it stopped charging, I noticed that the last light had started blinking, which, as we found out in the previous test, that's critically low battery. After that, I got about 48 minutes of leftover dim light, and I calculated that to be about 3% battery left. The torch has 2 hooks on each end. You can use just one hook, which will fit through circle loops, or you can use both hooks to form a closed loop. You can even hang this from both ends because they both have 2 hooks each. I thought this was really well designed and made for easy carry. The IP rating is IP67. This means that it can take not just heavy rain, water jets, but it can even be completely submerged up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. So I tested this out in not only 30 minutes of heavy rain, but even 10 minutes of high pressure water jets. And even after both these tests, I found that all the modes were still working great. I also pulled open the waterproof flap to the USB ports and found that not a single drop of water got in at all, so this has so far been completely waterproof. The last waterproof test is total submersion. After 30 minutes of this, the torch was still in perfect working condition. I also double checked that no water got into the ports, so this really is completely waterproof. As for quality, here's what you need to know. The light quality / temperature is warm. The spotlight comes in at 3000 Kelvin, while the flooded light comes in at 3500 Kelvin. For material quality, there are 3 different materials: high-grade plastic, parts of it are also aluminum, and you also have rubberized bits for added durability. However, the rubber bits don't really protect it that much, and it will get banged up if you drop it. It works perfectly fine even though I've dropped it a few times now, so I'd say overall durability is pretty good, even though it's pretty heavy. You can also charge this while using it at the same time as well. The warranty comes in at 2 years, and this torch is designed in the USA but made in China. One minor con here is that you can only have it vertically upwards, which isn't the most stable, or about a 45-degree angle downwards when horizontal. So there's no way to have it like 90 degrees to the side when horizontal. For portability, I first measured the weight, and that came in at about 13.1 ounces. As for the pack size, the dimensions come in at 8.8 inches for the length and about 2.2 by 1.4 inches across the top. For pros, I think the Goal Zero Torch 500 is overall a very feature-rich camping light. It comes with not just the 2-in-1 lantern and flashlight combo, it also comes with indicator lights, USB charging, solar charging, mobile charging, and hooks not only at the top but also at the bottom. And if you're looking for a lantern flashlight combo that can be powered by solar panels, this is the only one I've got. Just bear in mind that it takes about 1 full week to fully charge the battery. The battery capacity on this is also pretty good, coming in at 5200 milliampere hour. That's quite a bit higher than the other Goal Zero lantern flashlights, double the capacity to be exact. On top of that, I was able to get slightly more than double the amount of mobile charging as well. This number here would actually be higher if I had charged my phones from 20 to at most 80% instead of what I did here, and I charged from like 20 to almost full capacity. You also get double the max current, which helped to charge my devices about 10 to 20% faster. Another fantastic pro is that this torch has a very impressive flashlight beam distance and lantern shine distance as well. Now here's the table comparing all 3 Goal Zero lantern flashlights. In comparing the torch's floodlight / lantern, notice that the high brightness mode is more than double that of the microcharge and the microflash. Even the low brightness mode of the torch has a longer shine radius as well. And when it comes to the spotlight / flashlight, the brightest setting is double that of the charge and flash as well. And the dimmest setting is actually comparable as well, so overall, a very impressive lighting distance. Another great pro is the IP67 rating on this torch. So it was able to not just take heavy rain, water jets, and even complete submersion as well, and it held up every single time. Here's a quick comparison on Goal Zero's IP ratings. All of them can take heavy rain and water jets, but only the torch can be fully submerged and still hold up fine. If this video has been helpful so far, please help me hit that like button. Thank you, and I really appreciate it. Now for cons, because of the attached solar panel, this is quite a heavy and bulky flashlight, especially when you compare all 3 Goal Zero ones together. The torch is more than 4 times the weight of the other 2, and as for pack size, it's double the length of the microcharge and more than double the length of the flash. And here are some smaller cons. First, the dimmest lantern setting is very, very bright. The dimmest you can guess it is a whopping 300 lumens, which is far too bright to be a nightlight. On the other hand, I really liked that the microcharge and microflash had dimmest settings down to 0 lumens, which is great for a nightlight, and you can still use it to do things like read in the dark. And second, because the torch is so bright, the run times are actually not great, ranging from 20 to 30 hours at best. This is much lower than the official specs of supposedly 50 hours for each. On the other hand, both the microcharge and flash have minimum lumens of 0, so the max run times are like in the hundreds of hours, which is much more impressive. Overall, I thought that the Torch 500 was a solid flashlight and lantern combo, with plenty of features that you may find yourself needing when you're going camping. As for the cons, they're not major deal breakers, so this really is a solid pick. Is this the best lantern flashlight combo in the market though? Well, I tested this against 6 other ones in this video on the screen, so do check that out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in that one.